Hey guys, Sableye here, and welcome to the very first team report on my channel. Today we're going to go over the team that I used this past weekend to get top 8 in Desafio Latam, and Fiona used to get top 16 in the Women's Tour. So if you guys do not know Fiona, she's been around the channel for a fair bit. She teams up with me on the MBC. Everything can be found on her in the description down below. And of course, we did not build this team alone. I do have to definitely give a huge shout out to Gabe for all the prep he helped with. His Twitter and everything can be found in the description as well. But basically, just want to go over the team really quickly today, guys. It was really fun to build. You guys can see the original sicko mode in the background there that I got top 8 at Collinsville 2 years ago. And this is kind of, we wanted to rebuild sicko mode, so you can kind of see it in the background drawing. But anyways, so we're going to go through quickly the versions of the team. And I think it was about 2-3 weeks ago, we were like, you know what, let's do this. Yveltal is really good. Raichu, obviously, beside it, because, you know, you got to have the sicko mode core. I'll get to that story in just a little bit, but basically you can see the first draft, and as the drafts kind of developed, and we had Stack Attacker there, and we found ourselves just losing to Dialga. And then we were like, okay, what if we go Registeel? So we went Registeel, and Registeel was really good. And I believe draft 3 was actually, we were ready to go with draft 3, I want to say the Tuesday before the tournament, and we were all happy with it. You know, there was a few pieces that weren't really, you know, flowing all together, but I think as a whole the team was really, really solid still. I was up to like, I think 1850s on Showdown with it, so nothing crazy, but it was definitely a functional team, and we were ready to rock the tournament with it. Of course, we still had issues. Sacred Sword Zashing was a huge problem. Solgaleo was a problem, and if you look at that, Colossal really wasn't really in our favor either. Nor is it in our favor on draft 4 either, but you know, there were issues, right? So I believe it was Thursday now, and Fiona's like, you know, let's try Metagross. Let's try Metagross and Mungus. And okay, sure, why not? We'll try Metagross and Mungus. And we had suggested Metagross, I think it was the Tuesday night while we were trying to patch the Dialga matchup for the first time. And we were sitting there and we were like, okay, we could put Metagross here. Metagross should help a little bit. And we just couldn't figure out an item for it because Rillaboom was taking the AV, Yveltal was taking the policy. We really had no item for it. And I guess, I don't know, team building, we didn't really think, I guess we were kind of like, I don't know, brain dead a little bit or tired from building all day, but we couldn't put Metagross on the team. So I guess Fiona came to us then on the Thursday with this final version here. And this is what we ended up rocking with, guys. So really, really cool team. Yveltal, obviously. For those of you who don't know the sicko mode, Raichu, Yveltal, back in 2019 Collinsville, the team that you guys can somewhat see in the background there, me and Fiona named our team members after popular singers. And Raichu ended up being Travis Scott, and Yveltal just happened to be Drake. And sure, we didn't think anything of it, it just happened to lay out that way. And then we found ourselves leading Drake and Travis Scott all the time. So we just ended up starting calling the team Sicko Mode. So this is now the recreation of Sicko Mode. But anyways, Yveltal's here, guys. I don't want to ramble on for too long. Just going to kind of run through everything. Weakness policy, amazing. For those of you who say Moltres is the same as Yveltal, or Yveltal isn't worth the restricted slot because Moltres exists, I'm sorry, but you are wrong. There are things this bird does that that Moltres just couldn't do. And it's actually become kind of a joke for us when we come into, when it does things obviously a Moltres wouldn't do. We just go, oh, it's the same as Moltres, and it just kind of become a joke about it. But it's not the same as Moltres, guys. It is leaps and bounds way better. But besides the point, obviously Dark Pulse, Oblivion Wing, and Heat Wave is here mainly for the steel types, the pesky steel types, guys. It's really nice for Kartanas on Tornogre. It's really nice for the Zashians. It's probably one of our only Zashian matchup answers, which, when you think about it, is really bad. But, I mean, the team does have Zashian answers. Anyways, that's the Yveltal, guys. The EV spread basically meant to live stuff. I don't want to go too much into the EVs. They're there. If you want them, you can take them. But basically, 52 special attack assured. We got certain knockouts with the Dark Pulse. It didn't really secure anything with Oblivion Wing, I don't believe. But the defense there was mainly the big thing. And this is mainly for the Solgaleo matchup. We actually dropped our special attack to fix the Solgaleo matchup, which is kind of weird to me. You know, Yveltal team doesn't really like going up against Solgaleo. Now, it wasn't Solgaleo. It was the whole I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Pado's team, that I believe it was the Joe UX9 tour he cut with. The Solgaleo Spectre team, and that team actually gave us a lot of problems. So we actually had to adapt our team, some of our EVs here to fix for that. But we ended up having a matchup for it, and I actually beat 2 Solgaleos in Swiss. Obviously didn't have the Spectre beside it, so it was a little bit of a more standard matchup, but long story short, these EVs are definitely mainly for the Solgaleos. But anyways, moving on, we got Raichu here. And Raichu, MVP of the team. I'm going to be honest, 100% the MVP of the team. Earlier version of the team, we did have Nuzzle over Charm. We decided to go back to Charm just because of the way Raichu is then able to hinder physical Dynamaxers and special Dynamaxers and not be useless in front of Landers. So basically, we have trouble with little trouble with Landers because they'd be bringing Lando obviously, and we couldn't touch it. Right, your Impulse was useless, Volt Switch is useless, Fake Out. After the Fake Out, if they Dynamax, it's useless. And we had Nuzzle at the time, so we were like, you know, if we had Charm, we could actually drop it to -2, and at least we can do something on the field versus Lando, and we're not forced to switch. So we ended up going back to Charm. Nuzzle just wasn't enough, but that's the Raichu set right there, guys. Focus Sash. The lack of special attack is actually for the Solgaleo matchup as well, because we wanted to be able to Volt Switch into our Yveltal to get the policy and not die to the +2 max Rockfall from the Solgaleo. So in order to do that, we really had to hinder our special attack output from this Raichu. But I mean, I think the Raichu overall, for what it was doing, it didn't really need the special attack. You know, but it was a really good Raichu. Max speed, of course. You got to go max speed, guys. We're going to move on to Metagross now. And Metagross is one of those mons to me that was just kind of there. I used it a lot, don't get me wrong, and it was phenomenal in the matchups it was used for. Didn't play as Xerneas, unfortunately, but it would have been great for that. But anyways, pretty standard set, Iron Head, Stomping Tantrum, Rock Slide. We went Stomping Tantrum because at the time we were like, okay, I don't actually know what the base power of the Max Quake is. I'm gonna be honest here. I don't actually know. The Metagross, however, is really, really nice in late game scenarios when you don't necessarily have to Earthquake yourself. And our Zacian matchup was oftentimes Raichu, Metagross, Incineroar. All 3 of those would be in the game, and probably Yveltal was making an appearance as well, the odd time Lapras, but we couldn't really afford Earthquake because if the Zacian would just protect and we end up Earthquaking ourselves, we lose our positioning immensely, and we can't afford to do that versus Zacian since it's already a super tough matchup. So we opted for Stomping Tantrum, didn't want to start Earthquaking ourselves, didn't want to lose positioning that way. So that was the main reason for that. Thunder Punch is actually a really interesting one with all the Kyogres and all the Laprases, especially with the Lapdog teams, the Lapras Zacian teams. Thunder Punch actually came into play quite a bit. I actually ended up playing a Blastoise, and it helped me out there as well. But I really wanted Bullet Punch in this slot, just for those, you know, those late game mons that you just didn't quite clean up early on. But Thunder Punch, I 100% of the time will support. I think it was a great idea. And I believe, if I'm correct, she can yell at me in the comment section, but I believe she Thunder Punched her own Yveltal for a weakness policy at one point, I think. Don't get me wrong on that. But I believe she did, and it won her a game. But like I said, the option was there for it. And then, of course, Rock Slide is just there for those pesky fire types, flying types that Thunder Punch obviously can't hit, like the Thunderous, and stuff like that. Really good mon, very versatile. I'll talk a little bit about common leads and stuff after I go through the team. But Incineroar, and you know, originally I believe this was actually the version. I didn't even show the original version. The original version we had like a Hitmon top. It was really questionable. And Gabe's like, if only we could have an Intimidator that didn't just lose to Kyogre. Because and Incineroar solved all our problems. And then Gabe, I'm not sure if he was joking or if he was being serious, but he was just like, yo guys, Pasho Berry Incineroar. And I'm like, you know, I don't hate that. So we kind of went back to one of those old 2019 spreads with the special defense, and Pasho Berry Incineroar with Lapras screens is absolutely disgusting because it doesn't die to Kyogre. Kyogre just cannot kill this thing in one turn. That gives you opportunities to get stuff like a Parting Shot off. That gives you opportunities to get a Flare Blitz into the Steel type or into the Kartana. Taunt onto maybe a Trick Room setter. It's the amount of versatility that Pasho Berry gave us, especially with the screens, was absolutely, I'm going to use the term broken. It was really, really good on this team. And our Tornogre matchup was basically lead Raichu Lapras, have Incineroar and Yveltal on the back, and you could as long as you had 4 pieces for the end game, so you could fake out the AV Kartana, you were good. And the Pastel Berry was literally just that. And honestly, at times, a lot of times, we didn't even bring a Moongus versus Tornogre. And you'd think, I'll jump to a Moongus now. I'll go back to Lapras, but Cobra Berry and Moongus. You'd think Torn doesn't kill it. You could spore things. You probably lift some water spouts as well. And yeah, it did. But that wasn't really our main game plan versus Tornogre. I used it in like a game 2 or a game 3 from time to time, but like the main game plan was Raichu Lapras, Metagross Instant. Sorry, Raichu Lapras Instant Yveltal. But it just worked, guys. It really just worked. Obviously, standard Amoonguss got the Cobra Berry on it. We opted for a little bit more special defense just because we wanted to wall Kyogres. When we brought this Amoonguss, we wanted to be bulky on the Kyogre end. You also have stuff like Lapras. I believe if they're not Life Orb on their Lapras, or if they're not max special attack, it's actually a roll for the G-Max Resonance to not kill us, which could come in handy. I do regret not going physically defensive a little bit. However, the physically defense, I was only gonna say that because for Zacian matchup you can live hits better, but I think everything still remains a 2-hit knockout. So I don't know, don't quote me on that, but basically your standard Amoonguss here, guys, and it did Amoonguss things. Rage Powder support is super nice because you can afford to go low health with Yveltal, right? And then you can Rage Powder for a turn, get your health back with Oblivion Wing, and then you no longer need to Rage Powder, Or I believe there was an endgame in top 16 that I ended up just having a Metagross on 19 hit points, and I just kept Rage Powdering, and Metagross just took out the rest of the team because they couldn't kill the Metagross. And it's just Amoonguss, guys. There's nothing else to say. It's Amoonguss. Amazing Pokemon. Really good Trick Room matchup as well. A lot of times we didn't really want opponents to get Trick Room up because we are speedy Metagross. And I didn't actually touch upon this, but I will go back to it now. And basically 112 doubles to 224 with outspeeds the Calorexes at +2, and that basically is for Airstreams from Yveltal. We get 2 Airstreams up with Yveltal beside Metagross. Metagross starts going zoom, and it's really nice to have speed on the Metagross as well. But just general, +1 you outspeed Urshifu's, really nice. Didn't really come and play too much. I don't think Urshifu is too common, which I think it's gonna start picking up in usage, but it's just tough with the Zacian and the Ogres and all that. But anyways, another MVP of the team right here, guys, Lapras. Lapras, if you're still sleeping on Lapras in this format, you are mistaken again. It's similar to the Moltres thing. People are saying Lapras just isn't worth it. 85 special attack, kind of garbage. It doesn't really do much, doesn't put on a lot of pressure. You can kind of play around it. You can just hinder it. Whatever you've got against Lapras, guys, it's going to be around in this format for a while. It does a superb job of shutting down Kyogre, especially beside Raichu. Right? Okay, what's Kyogre going to do to Lapras? Maybe if it techs Thunder. And honestly, a lot of them don't tech Thunder. So, now you have Raichu. Raichu comes in. If they have Thunder, you have Raichu, Lapras. Kyogre's not touching this thing. You freeze dry it back. You can always Thunder it back if you don't bring your Raichu, if your Raichu's off the field. There's a lot of options. Obviously, Max Lightning is really clutch as well at times to stop Sleep Powders. Also works the same on Metagross from Thunder Punch. But basically, guys, we wanted to hit hard. So we just went max special attack. And we also went 93 speed. I don't remember whose Incineroar we actually outsped, because the original plan, I think we were at 91 to outspeed max speed Amoonguss. And we were getting outsped by this certain Incineroar. I don't even remember whose Incineroar it was. If I do figure it out, I will post it in somewhere on the screen about now in post editing. But we ended up speed creeping that Incineroar to go up to 93. It turns out other people just went faster with Incineroar anyways, and we still got outsped with a few Incineroars. But having a fast Lapras, a relatively fast Lapras at 93, did outspeed most Incineroars, and you could just drop things like Incineroar before they got the party shut off, and that was phenomenal. And the defense, I don't even quite remember what the defense was for. Obviously, you don't want to be bringing this thing in against Zacian. We do take it pretty, not well, but for a Zacian Behemoth Blade, we take it, which I mean is good, considering it was at they'd be at +1 all the time. But with that, guys, I think that's most of the team I'm going to cover. Obviously, just standard moves on Lapras as well, nothing too crazy. The one option, I guess, would be Thunder instead of Perish Song. Perish Song, we didn't have the mode for that on this team. If you look at our team, the only 2 Pokemon that have Protect, 3 Pokemon I should say, are Amoonguss, Yveltal, and Lapras. And Yveltal is not really a Perish mode. Lapras is actually fast Lapras, so Perish endgame doesn't really work if it's 2v2. And, I mean, Amoonguss is good and all for the Perish endgame, but I don't know. We ended up going with Thunder. It was a lot better, in my opinion. We needed the damage output onto stuff like Kyogre. Because Lapras could... I mean, we had Freeze Dry, but Freeze Dry doesn't do a whole lot unless it's not Max Kyogre. Like, if you're a regular Lapras into a Max Kyogre, Freeze Dry is doing... I don't know, I think it was like 30% at best. But anyways, guys, common leads, Raichu, Yveltal. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But guys, when all else fails, if you are going to try this team, Raichu, Yveltal, that's the lead. If you don't know what to lead, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be your best lead. Gives you the most options. You can do so much with that lead. You can self-full switch, you can volt switch off your opponent, you can max airstream, you can max flare, you can dark pulse. All else fails, you can dark pulse flinch if you really, really needed it. I'm not saying play for the flinches, but it is an option that's there with this lead. Max darkness is also super, super nice. Just start chunking trick room setters as well. Like if they lead really passive and try to just get trick room up and you can go fake out darkness into another darkness, you can start stacking damage really, really fast. That would be one lead. I would say Raichu Lapras is the other lead. Most often, Raichu Lapras being led into the Tornogre matchup, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, guys. Really, really nice. Really, really common for that lead. Really shuts down a lot of things because what it does is it stops them from leading Tornogre. And I'm gonna let you know now that when they don't lead Tornogre, Tornogre players do some really, really strange things when they can't lead Tornogre. And I noticed that this weekend. They would lead Tornogre game 1. I'd come in with that. I was gonna say I would win the game, but I actually did lose quite a few game 1s against Tornogre, which is kind of funny. But it was the end game that I lost, not the beginning. So what it did was it did force them to stop leading Tornogre. Yes, Tornogre can still kind of put on pressure if it's played correctly, but it does put the matchup in our favor with the Raichu Lapras there. You can make a case saying Amoonguss Metagross is a common lead as well. It is really nice to have. I didn't lead it too often. I don't know about Fiona or Gabe, but yeah, it's still a nice lead. I know I led it in top 16, which definitely helped me out quite a bit. We actually don't lead Incineroar too often, which is kind of interesting. We definitely bring it quite a bit. It's just normally in the back. I like it more as a switch-in, because if you look at our team, right, like, Yveltal doesn't really want to switch into too many attacks. Lapras, in regular form before screens, doesn't really want to switch into too many attacks, right? So it was better off, most of the time, having the Metagross, having the Incineroar, having the Amoonguss, having that stuff in the back as a switch-in if you happen to lead wrong, or you just needed to pivot. And that's kind of the team, guys. I made you guys wait this long. The paste is in the description down below. You do not need to copy all of these sets one by one. I wasn't going to say that at the beginning of the video, but it is in the description. To me, it bothers me when someone releases a team report like this and doesn't put the paste in the description. But I did... Excuse me. But paste is in the description. I believe Fiona also released the rental team, so that will also be in the description as well if you guys are looking to try this out. I do encourage you to try it, guys. Yveltal is really, really being slept on right now. People are hating on it, and it bothers me. It's really, really good, guys. Like I said, rough matchups. You really got to play perfectly against Solgaleo, which is kind of dumb when you think about it. Mainly the Solgaleo Spectre, because the problem is you can't get your self-proc off, which is the annoying part. We do have a game plan. I'm not going to release all of that info, but we do have a game plan for it. So it's something. I also believe that's what knocked Gabe out he was 4-2 and he needed to win his last game as the winning in, and I believe he lost to that matchup. So it's not an easy matchup by any means, because even though you'd think, Yveltal, Solgaleo, Yveltal should be winning that. Dynamax really does kind of complicate things there, guys. But it is still a winnable matchup. But yeah, with that, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. So just once again, thank you guys. Thank you to Gabe and Fiona for team building with me, and of course all the prep leading up to the tournament as well.